excited to be here today with all of you. I'm thrilled to be able to talk about communication tips and work, hopefully with us all on building new paths. Welcome, welcome. And don't hesitate to chat in some questions, because as we go through this, the hope is that it kind of sparks some new thinking and new ways of pursuing communication with your loved one. Again, thank you, Ellen, and thank you all for being here with us. We're going to go ahead and start. And I always like to start with goals. What are we trying to do here within this 1 hour? We're going to try to talk about communication issues and understand those issues that our loved ones may be having. Then we're going to learn about how to look at where we are now and pursue forward. About what is today is the guts of today, which is 10 tips for new paths, new communication. Then we're going to review all of those again so that we can better kind of summarize and keep that in the front of our minds. And then we're going to talk about what we can all do here at Alzheimer's to help more. So those are quick little goals. So we all know if you are caregiving or have given for an affected individual, either Alzheimer's or other types of dementia, connecting can be tough. Communication issues are not all the same, but a lot of them tend to be the same, maybe to a different degree with your loved one. But those affected tend to, of course, repeat familiar words. That can kind of drive us crazy, but that can also be a form of them telling you what they need without being able to find that whole sentence. Describing objects rather than naming them. They may actually be able to say, that thing that I sip out of, that's not a coffee cup or it's not a glass, but you can probably kind of get to that once they start that sort of communication. And this is the tough one. As they go over time with their disease, they will begin to speak less. That part of the brain that activates that is just not connecting the way it once was. And that makes understanding and communication certainly difficult when we are needing to know where they are and what their needs are. So again, difficulty finding the right words. They may misname things, certainly misname people. So that can be frustrating. A lot of times they easily lose their train of thought. That is really a tough one, because you think they're thinking one thing, but they're really not. They're all in a different world. That can kind of be tough to redirect them back to what you're trying to do at that moment. Disorganized speech, we call that sort of word salad, where you get a lot of different words and you're trying to find what in those words are meaningful. Sometimes there's only one or two words in that whole strand of that language that really they're trying to convey. Then there are always facial expressions and, just sounds that you become familiar with and that they are trying to express themselves with. So those are some of those tough things that you as a caregiver have to deal with in order to overcome where we are. Right? So we're going to try to find new paths. Change is hard. This is not something that comes easily to us in a regular environment, least of all in a stressed environment with a loved one who becomes very anxious. Hey, this takes work. This takes trial and error to find new paths and to try new things. What works on one may not work on someone else. Something that works with my loved one may not be effective with yours. So you have to dig through that dirt. You have to keep running and put one foot in front of the other. Do not give up. All right. And today's about giving you some basic skills to remember, keep in the forefront of your mind, apply to what's going on in your life. That's the real important part about what we're doing. So let's move on. Where are you now? Okay, exactly where is your relationship? What you need to know is that relationships matter. Like how this works for you truly makes a difference. I mean, it's going the wrong way. There we are. Think about how you and your loved one relate to each other and also to those others in your life circle. May not be just you. You may be doing fine, but other people who enter the relationship or visit, it becomes difficult. Are you an independent person or are you a dependent person? This was all talked about yesterday. I love this train of thought to try to figure out your loved one. Was he the independent type? Was she the independent type? Because now they have to become dependent, and that creates its own frustrations, right? You need to know where you look at that, independent, dependent. Also, is your family united or is it estranged? That creates communication issues for you, okay? It's not just about communication for your loved one. We're looking at how to make this whole living together through this and this journey together a little bit easier through better communication. If you are united with your family, that is wonderful. But in teaching them how to better communicate, setting them some boundaries about things that are discussed and not discussed, etc. Okay? If you're estranged, that can cause stress on just not you, that your loved one will get that. Okay? Where is so-and-so? Why aren't they coming to see me, etc. That's tough to communicate when stress is high. Think about ways that you can include your family if you are united and ways that you can work around those persons who may not be helpful for you and you may be estranged from by this point. I love this to consider whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. How you communicate depends upon how you are really made up individually. Obviously, you can see that I am an extrovert. I love to talk. That's not always good in the caregiving world, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But an introvert is also challenged at times to try to insert what needs to be, those decisions that need to be made. So I want you to think in your own mind, do I consider myself an introvert? What about my loved one? Okay. Was she an introvert, extrovert? You can change how you communicate based upon what you know about that person. Today's about trying to get some more awareness in those things. This disease of dementia changes. It does not stay the same. So your communication has to change as the disease progresses, okay? The difficulty of communicating with an affected individual is that this disease is dynamic. In the morning, they may be very happy, but yet in the afternoon, they turn aggravated. Or if it's someone like me who is not a great person in the morning, on a best day without dementia, I cannot imagine my difficulty communicating early in the morning in the future if I was never a morning person, okay? Those dynamics of the disease change as the person's environment changes, also as these chemicals in their brain change, okay? Just like you, if you go out for a quick walk or a run, you get this burst of energy. They get those too. Sometimes the brain is working better and sometimes it's not working as well. But how do you know that walking into a room or walking up beside them? You have to judge this, okay? So the disease changes, communication has to change, and it is dynamic. It changes over time, and it's different almost every time you look at them. It can be a whole different story. So that's what I want you to think about. Where are you now? And become more aware of what is working, maybe what is not working. Okay, what we mean by that is When do you feel like you're frustrated? Okay. When do you feel like what you're saying isn't helping? When are those situations becoming overwhelming for you? All of those are signs that something's not working, okay? But anyone who has been a caregiver understands that that is the process, okay? It's a tough process, but you have to try to look at what's actually happening so that you can try to create new paths. This is the tough part. We want them to change a lot of the time, either go back to who they always were or become what you need them to be today, right? Easier, not as grumpy, not as anxious, etc. But the difficulty is that if they could change, they would change, okay? The disease creates the difficulty. And the person who needs to change is the caregiver. And there, another job for you. And I always hate that whole concept. Everything is on your shoulders, right? That is correct. But we're looking at how to change to make those shoulders feel a little bit lighter and to look at this process a little bit differently so that you can change. Again, change is never easy, but if things are going to get better, if that overwhelming feeling needs to reduce, if your frustration levels need to be reduced, somebody has to change. And the only person in the equation who really can change is you. And that's a tough one. So we're going to discuss those 10 tips to help us all change. And I love tip number 1 because I live by it day in and day out. Don't be afraid to laugh. I know that sounds kind of assumed, but when you're in a stressful situation, clicking in your mind to giggle, to smile, humor lightens the mood. Sometimes if you don't laugh, you will literally, definitely cry. Laughter can get you through that journey, can get you through that moment. And when you laugh, your loved one lightens immediately, okay? Don't laugh at them, but giggle with them, okay? That can reduce that stress. It'll just cut it in half. Before you know it, they're redirected to laughing, okay? Understand that the person you're working with may not have been a lighthearted individual prior to that. Maybe he was serious. He didn't really have a lot of fun. My dad was one of those that worked. When he became sick, he was, number one, he was very independent and traveled. So suddenly he was dependent. Number 2, we couldn't believe how he laughed. Suddenly in the last 13 years of his life was light. And that was because we all giggled about some of the crazy things that went on, right? You can help them not to take it all very seriously. And what I learned in my personal relationship with my dad was that it brings you closer. We had never been that way together. All of my life, I was 30 years old when he first got sick. And for 13 years, he became this fun-loving, happy-go-lucky guy. Well, that was wonderful for us, but we had to allow that to happen. And this whole concept of don't be afraid to laugh can really help you get from one transition to the next. Transitions from the dining room table to the den, from the kitchen to the car. All of that can be daunting for a person who doesn't know where they're going or what they're supposed to do next. And if you can bring some laughter and fun into it, it can really allow for that transition to go a lot more joyful. And I love working hard in your mind to create joyful moments. That's tough in this world that we're in with caregiving for a person who's affected with dementia and Alzheimer's. So much of the disease is hard to understand and take. So work for those joyful moments, but they have to come from you. most likely they're not going to start from your loved one, even if they had a great personality to begin with, because in those stressful moments, that's when they become most anxious, and that brain tends to not work as well when that anxiety level rises. Okay, so laughter can be an easy way to transition to another subject, to another activity. It just makes life a little bit easier for both of you. Don't be afraid to laugh. Tip number one. Okay, tip number two. This is so true. Not all communication is verbal. We talk when we're not talking, okay? Our body language says more to our loved one than our words. We all as humans, the number one way we take in information and data is through our eyes, the number one. So a person with dementia and Alzheimer's will also do that, especially when other parts of the brain aren't working as well anymore and that brain is declining. Literally, their brain is shrinking. So it can't do what it once did. So it depends on those other things more. And one of the things it depends most on is what they see, okay? So body language speaks more than words. Learn to use your hands. As you can see, I love to use my hands, right? But please understand that can help. Let's go this way. Let's not do that. Time out. That's probably not helpful. Wait. Even just wait, okay, can be so easy. Take a few minutes to look and listen to them after you speak and before you continue to speak, okay? Give them time to identify you and what you're trying to get them to do or look at. Take a good look at them before you move forward. What are we looking for? Well, we're looking for that stress. We're looking for confusion, all right? We're looking for that light in their eyes that says, oh yeah, I got you, okay? You know, do they want to be somewhere else? Are they really anxious with what's going on there? This can all help you know how to approach them and how to kind of slow down, all right? We're going to talk a little bit more about how to approach in another tip, but I want you to remember that how you look, whether you are smiling, big smile, whether you are frowning or worried, if you're worried and you have that worried look on your face, most likely your loved one will get more worried. They don't understand what's going on, okay? So not all communication is verbal, and body language speaks so much more than words. Much, much more than words. Okay. So the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. I love Walt Disney and I love this statement, and I put it in here because we need to turn pages on how to do things new, okay? Turn the page on a new way of connecting. Written notes, body language, these are all good ways to show your care without requiring an immediate communication response. If you write something, I loved to keep a notebook with my dad. Today, I keep notes, a notebook for my husband, and this is today at the top of the notebook before I go to bed every night, you know, Tuesday, today is Wednesday, May 11, okay? I'm going to work. I'll be back at 4. I don't have a meeting. I do have a meeting. What kind of I'm doing in the day, and then what maybe he might have going on. Amazon will be delivering a package. Any of those things that he would have to remember otherwise can be written down, okay? Now, we as caregivers tend to make a mistake about filling in the quiet space, okay? They don't talk as much anymore, and you're trying to chit chat, you're trying to get them to do what you need them to do, right? But that filling in the quiet can lead to you doing a lot of the talking, and they are not able to process that information as quickly as they once were. They take time. Give them directions simply, okay? Try not to repeat time. And do you want to go to lunch? You sure you want to go to lunch? Did you hear me say I want you to go to lunch? I think somebody's coming to pick us up for lunch. You didn't hear your first question by the time you said it 4 times. Okay? Take your time. Think twice about repeating yourself. And I don't think we even know we're doing it. It's just natural. Okay? But give them time to respond. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. But when you keep talking and getting closer to them and more intrusive in their space, they're getting aggravated and they're pulling back, and you wonder why. Well, number one, they're not understanding you. And number two, you're leaning in. They're not comfortable with that, okay? Because they don't know what you want from them, all right? Many times this can lead to great frustration, all right? So when I say the best way to quit talking is to begin doing, truly try to talk less. And that's hard because they're talking less, but try to give more direct information. And we're going to talk about that. That's another one of our tips. All right, tip number 3, important. Friendship is important. So Alzheimer's and dementia is an isolating disease, all right? Many of your friends don't know how, or maybe family as well, how to communicate, how to connect. They're uncomfortable. They're talking away and your loved one is looking outside. They don't know how to do this. But I encourage you to encourage others not to pull away. Tip number 3 is that your friendship means the world to them, and that other friendships who can adapt their communication can make a difference for you and for your loved one, okay? Do whatever you can to encourage others to stay connected. Talk to them. Be honest about your concerns. Be honest about maybe what didn't work last time and aggravated your loved one so that that can get better, all right? Explain clearly to family and friends. It's not just that he can't understand you. He understands. He just may not be able to process it all right? And a lot of that basic chit chat he might do well at, or she might do well at, but explaining to your family and friends to slow down, to watch how they look with your husband, with your wife, with your spouse, with your friend. Understand that how they look also affects your loved one in that situation, okay? That loved one is going through a tough time, and your friendship is his and her connector, all right? Connector. It's a tough place to be, but you have to be direct with others about that struggle, about how sometimes it's hard to communicate. Sometimes it's tough, okay? Friendship is important. Your loved one needs you to be a friend more than a caregiver. Need to combine those two roles. They have to lay side by side. Don't be very careful not to crisscross them, okay? Your friendship is the most important thing. That's what gives them dignity and respect, all right? And I love this statement, a friend in need is a friend indeed. We all need that, right? And we've all experienced that. So let's keep going on. Tip number 4, okay? This one's the tough one. Avoid correcting, arguing, criticizing. Try your best to know their reality and put yourself in that. They live in a different reality from you do, okay? It's not the same. Correcting, criticizing, arguing is just natural. This person knew the differences. Why don't they know now? All right. But that's creating great stress on both of you. All right. This is the tough one. We want it to be right. All right. No, we went to lunch yesterday. We didn't go to lunch today. All right. Where's mom? Well, telling them mom died, last year, and then they grieve all over again. It's just as simple to say, well, mom's gone for the afternoon, but she'll be back later. Yes, it's a lie. And I'm sorry to say that. We call it therapeutic fibbing. All right. But correcting tends to lead to lots of anxiety. And what have you achieved in that? All right. They become stressed. That leads to more forgetfulness. And this becomes a vicious cycle that can really explode on you very quickly. All right. Working to reduce stress is one of our best, wow, can't talk all of a sudden, one of our best paths to good communication, reducing that stress. Okay. I love this one. The maid hid my wallet. Really? Somebody stole my newspaper. I just saw it. I'll look for it in a few minutes. But our first reaction is, Dad, nobody stole your newspaper. I don't know where you put it. Okay? That's normal, but we have to think differently. Some individuals actually see things or persons hallucinate, and that's a tough one not to avoid and not to argue and not to criticize, because you're not seeing what they're seeing, right? But you really do have to understand that they believe it, and arguing makes them feel less. And one of the best things we can do to communicate well is to get them to feel more, get them to rise to the best of their abilities at that moment. And again, those moments change, okay? But many, many times, just go with it. And this, for me, was the toughest thing to learn. I still learn it day in and day out. It is not a perfect world. There are days when this is just not an easy thing to do. Don't kill yourself about it to you, but just try to go with it. Answer as best you can without upsetting the individual. All those many questions. Reducing stress is the foundation, all right? So correcting, arguing, criticizing is not helpful for you or your loved one, all right? So that brings me to this little conversation about finding a way to grow through caregiving. That's a tough one, all right? It takes a lot of strength, a lot of caring, a lot of patience, and a lot of heart for not just the loved one you have, but for the job that you're doing, all right? Again, a friend in need is a friend indeed, all right? That's who you are to this person. And your strength will be tested, your caring will be tested, your patience will be tested, and even at times, your heart will hurt for not what they're necessarily doing, but your reaction to it. Helping yourself, forgiving yourself, helping them to live a better life, enjoying their life to the maximum. This creates a much stronger you. It can make you be more than you ever thought you ever had to be in life. So do not think that we give tip number 4 and that I say, no big deal. Tip number 4 is a tough one. And it will test all of your strength, all of your caring, all of your patience, and all of your heart in order to move beyond that, arguing, correcting, figuring out what's right. It's okay for them to be wrong as long as they're happy, okay? As long as they're happy, they can be wrong. They can call the cat the wrong name. It's okay. Even though he's had the cat or she's had the cat for 15 years. And they know they love the cat. But if the name was Precious and they call him Tiger, it's okay. Move on, all right? Just go with it. Tip number 5. So This is sort of the same thing. Avoid these open-ended questions. Be careful what questions you ask because you may not like your answers, all right? You may not be so happy with that whole no, they seems that no never really goes away, all right? Because they can shake their head and they can shake their head yes, all right? Ask simple yes and no questions so that you get an answer and you can see their desire. Don't ask a question that you really don't want an answer to. Do you want to go to lunch? Well, you better be prepared not to go for an hour because you just asked. Let's go to lunch. Do you want coffee? Yes or no? Okay. That helps them make a decision that they're confused. Simple decisions about coffee or water. All right. And those direct questions, avoiding that open-ended, a normal question for a person who's not affected would be, hey, where do you want to go to lunch? Or, hey, would you like to go to lunch with me? I'm up the street, right? They need help in making those decisions. And that very question can create great stress in a person who doesn't know what street you're on, okay? That part of their brain is just not the same, all right? Provide simple choices. Blue shirt or red shirt, right? Put your arm here, walk this way. Walk this way, do your hand, walk this way. Hold my hand. Simple directions, okay? Not do you want to hold my hand? If I'd asked that to my daddy 20 times, he'd have gone boom, all right? He wasn't interested in holding my hand, he's a grown man. I didn't need to hold your hand. It wasn't a question, it's an offer, okay? I love this one. Do you want a pie or a cookie? Make sure you have both because they're going to answer one or the other, right? This shirt or that shirt. Anything like that that is not open-ended, that can lead them to a decision. Simple questions are better. And we're also going to talk about how to ask those questions. That's next, okay? So tip number 6, speak slowly and clearly, all right? Slow as you go is my motto. You may not even realize that you are not speaking in a manner that your loved one can really understand. What's your tone of voice? I still to this day have to change my tone of voice when I speak with my husband because I have a loud, boisterous voice. And that can set him on edge at times, not all the time, but at times, okay? Your tone about how you ask something can really make a difference. Don't ask a question, okay? Don't use a statement that liltingly sounds like a question, right? I like that shirt. Well, do you? Something simple like that and how you ask and speak to them can really change. I love this. Avoid multi-step instructions, okay? Things like get in the shower and grab that soap and start scrubbing. Okay, that's 3 tasks you just gave them to do, all right? Slow as you go. Let's lift your foot, let's get in, okay? Oh, there's the towel. Here you go. One at a time. Be careful not to confuse them. Put your arm here. Use visual, not just words. Put your arm here. Scrub those teeth. What are you doing? Even sometimes with my dad, I would brush my teeth when he was brushing his teeth. He was able to brush his teeth. He just didn't know to do it. All right. But Daddy, will you brush your teeth was always met with, I just did. He didn't want to do it. So it was a little bit easier when it was time to brush teeth and we all did it together, okay? Stop if your instructions create anxiety. Wait a few minutes, catch your breath, let them kind of calm down a little bit, and then try it a little bit differently. I want you to use this expression in your head, and if you haven't heard it, remember it. It's called wait. Why am I talking? Why am I talking? Well, you're talking too much, okay? The average person who is affected takes up to 16 seconds to process the information you have just given them, to process the question you want an answer to. That is a long time, all right? May not sound long, but if you put it on a timer, you know. And if you're working with your loved one day in and day out, you do understand that they're a little bit slower at times, all right? And when you see that, slow down a little bit more, all right? Give them time to catch up to you. I love it when my husband looks at me and says, "What are you waiting for?" Well, that means he's caught up with me. I don't mind that. That's a good thing. That means I'm not racing in front of him, which is my tendency, all right? Because we need to get this stuff done. We need to move forward, all right? But if you don't slow down, watch how you talk, put a smile on your face when you say stuff. It's that simple. Stay a little bit of, a little bit out, give them some respect of some private space, right? And tell them things one step at a time. Let's go to the kitchen. Oh, look, lunch is ready. Simple, simple, simple. And you can judge this with your loved one as you go along, because they'll tell you when they're frustrated with you. Why are you talking so slow? Okay, I was just trying to catch up to you. Show them that respect, that they're really in charge, all right? That's the tough one, because they very seldom feel like they are in charge. And when you slow down and let them catch up to you, then that gives them that dignity that I'm part of this. You're not doing this to me, we're doing this together. And that's a big deal in loving, caring, finding that strength and that support for them wherever they might be at that point. Okay, we are doing well. Tip number 7, make eye contact. Don't talk to them while they're looking away. Come back, get them to see you, even if you have to move into their line of vision. Peripheral vision tends to go away as the disease progresses, okay? So you may have to be standing a little bit of distance in front of them, but stand in front, all right? So that you know they see you, all right? It provides that respect. I'm here for you. I'm your friend. I care for you. I'm concerned. Focus on what they are saying in return to you. Stop, let them reply, okay? And that keeps their attention if you're keeping that eye contact. Also, eye contact keeps your attention on them, all right? We as humans, again, take in more data visually. So if you don't have their eye contact, they're not taking in your data. Keeping their visual focus on you will immediately improve your communication and connection back and forth. Immediately. Okay, tip number 8. Love this one. Same theory. Introduce an approach from in the front. Why? Because they're looking at you, right? Over time, they're going to forget your face and your name. When you approach them, you know they don't remember people. Explain this to family members too. If you just hold your hand up, okay? And I know this feels weird, but hold your hand up when you're walking in a room and say, "Hey, Dad, it's Ann. You're looking good today." Their visual is coming to your hand and next to your face. So you're getting that immediate contact, all right? Don't approach them from behind. They don't know you're there. They can't see behind. They can't see when they approach from the side. They're here. They're here. Now they might be here, but as time approaches and the more people are bedridden and the more the disease advances, you have to learn to get into that frontal visual tunnel, I call it, eventually, okay? We like to say visual, verbal, then touch, okay? That is a TIPA Snow foundation, and it really makes a difference in your introduction and your approach, okay? So visual, verbal, then you can touch them, then approach and shake hands or touch them on the arm, right? That's an important part to good communication, because if you startle them, guess what? Stress level goes up immediately. You haven't said a word and they're backing off of you. Who are you? Where did you come from? They don't know you all the time. They may sometimes, but not all the time. Assume that you need to come slowly and into their front vision. Yelling from another room is not the greatest way. They're not really able to take in that data like you are. Okay, introduce yourself from the front, even if this is, you just walked to the kitchen and came back. If they have that little confused look, hey, Dad, it's Ann. You might have to say that 20 times a day. It's a lot easier than having them jump. Okay. Tip number nine, quiet places. All right. One-on-one is best. One-on-one is best. Background noise can be so distracting. All right. In general, you're going to get better communication if you're one-on-one with your loved one. All right. Minimize those distractions. How about television, radios? Look, music is great. When you want them and you need them to adjust and it can soothe them, I'm all in on the music. All right. But if what you're trying to do is give them directions, what you're trying to do is get them to bathe, get them to leave, probably you need to reduce all of that. It's very hard on me. I like a boisterous home, but my husband and I have had to adjust to quiet. He gets very confused if the TV's on all the time. If I'm playing the music, I have speakers throughout my house, that I can't do a lot of that. I have to do that with him because he gets very aggravated. He doesn't know what's always going on around him, okay? So quiet places are better. Even when you have a lot of grandchildren and there's lots of fun chaos, if you need to give him direction, try to calm that a little bit, make them all, okay, everybody settle down for a minute, and then give some one-on-one eye contact direction, all right? Will help, this is gonna help them focus on your conversation and not be so confused, all right? Lower that anxiety. Tip number 10, you are important. No doubt about it. You are the most important. I believe that love really conquers all. I've seen it in my own relationships. I've seen it in my family. Even this disease, all right? They will eventually may forget your name. They may forget your face as it looks to them now, all right? My uncle was married to his wife for over 64 years, and he did not know her as an older person, but when you showed him a picture of her as a young lady, he said, that's my wife. Yes, okay? So he didn't remember her face, but he knew he was connected to her. He knew there was this strong bond. They know at the moment how you are making them feel. All right. And that makes a world of difference. Live with them in that moment. Hang on to that. Create more of those one-on-one, eye contact, laughter, joyful moments. Because they are remembering, they are knowing how you are making them feel at that moment. And if you are stressed, they are stressed. If you are joyful, happy, it's going to go that way for them too. Okay, so we're going to do a quick review. Laughter, very important. Body language, very important. Stay friends, okay? When we begin to criticize and it's very hard to be friends with somebody that doesn't like you, okay? Let them know you're their friend. Don't argue, criticize, correct. It's natural, but it's one of the things that we must overcome in order to be create this new path of communication. Yes and no questions, simple, so important. Slow down, speak clearly, maintain that eye contact, approach from the front, introduce yourself. I know that sounds kind of crazy. This is your husband, or this is your dad, this is your wife. Yes, but introduce yourself, say your name, and then they'll connect, okay? Quiet is better. And don't forget that you are so important and that you have to take care of you. I love this picture. You'll see that there's lots of different paths here because no two paths are the same. Your journey with your loved one is different than anyone else's. You create your own path. Do you like it with grass? Do you like it all to be stone? Do you like it more rocky? It's left up to you. All right. You can support that loved one and create your own path, but we're here to help you in that support. If you're here on this Lunch and Learn, you know we are your one-stop shop. We want to be there for you, not just in East Baton Rouge, but we cover a 10 parish area. Charlie's Place is here in Baton Rouge and in Gonzales. Both are open. Please let us know if that can be, if you think that may be helpful. We offer free memory screenings with appointments, and whenever it may be best for you or your loved one. Again, caregiver support groups. If you're not in one, I encourage you, find a support group that you're comfortable with. You don't have to be in just one. You can be in others. You can try them out and come and go, all right? Virtual visits, and we're back to in-person visits. Please, if you need us, don't hesitate to call and make an appointment. We're here, all right? We want to offer you all of our understanding, resources, education, and support. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're a phone call away for anything. Please, you know, and I know we've heard a lot, but we're here to hear your path. What struggles, what's good, just share what's going on with you here, okay? That's what we're here for. Support you while you support your loved one. Sorry, went the wrong way. And we're here at questions. I want to thank y'all. If we have questions, we have about 10 minutes. I thought we'd leave a little bit of time. And if there are any issues that you really thought needed to come up that didn't happen, please, please, please let us know. All right.
Thank you, Anne. Such a wonderful presentation. We have a question in the chat for you. What would you do if someone is communicating to your loved one in a different way, less successful than the way that you do?
So there's the frank and honest conversation on the side, okay? Even if you have to take them in another room and say, listen, I know your intentions are good, but this is, if you can kind of talk lower or slower, I know he'll respond better. She'll respond better. So even if you don't have the conversation then, before you invite them back or before you have that next interaction with that individual, pick up the phone, call them, try to talk to them and explain to them that, she's different. He doesn't think, and his, it's just not working the way it should. And so I've learned through Alzheimer's services, give them a pro, throw that pro out there to them. We've learned that it's easier if we do this. He responds better. She responds better when I talk lower, when I look her, and I'm not doing other things at the same time. And look, those conversations can get very sticky. I know myself, I had those conversations with my siblings. Again, you may not know this, but I come from a large, loud Italian family. And it was a tough road. My dad was always the center of that action. And then he became sick. And that action absolutely gave him great anxiety. We had to learn to come in pieces and not all be together at one time so much. And that when we were, we generally made sure that we did quiet things with kids, that the TV wasn't on, that we interacted a little bit calmer, a little bit slower, because he really reacted very poorly. Those were tough conversations, even to have with my mother, who wanted all of her children and grandchildren with her, right? But it wasn't going well. He was reacting very poorly. He was even getting violent because it upset him and he didn't know what was going on. So those were kind of good segues. Tough times when my dad went to hit a grandchild, tough times, but it told us, hey, it's a red flag. We have to change what we're doing. And it also allowed that conversation to go a lot better with my siblings and with my mother than what it had in the past. That's my best advice there, and I hope it can help you. Ellen's the expert. She would love to have any conversations with that, as well as I would. Anyone here is here to talk those individual family issues through. Any other questions you have there, Ellen?
Yes, we have a couple more for you. This one says, I'm new to all of this. What is the average age of onset of Alzheimer's disease, and is it genetic? P.S. Wonderful presentation.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, it can be genetic, doesn't always have to be. Early onset is considered before 65. Normal is after 65. So they believe, we just saw an article in the Advocate, I think last week, but researchers believe that your memory issues in the brain begin almost 20 years prior to any sign of memory loss. So what we do now affects what's going to happen in the future. And what was another? So that is it genetic? It can be. There is a gene that you can be identified with, but it is different for everyone. How, when, and how it affects you. There's no fail-safe date. There's no fail-safe age. It could be affecting me right now, probably is, in some way, shape, or form. Because it takes about 20 years before that real memory loss begins to show. Was there another part to that question, Ellen?
That was that whole question. Thanks, Ann. Sure. And then Ms. Shirley asked, will the slides we sent out, we will be sending out the link to the recording after, so you'll be able to see all of the slides and you can watch the whole presentation again. Let's see, Ann, I think that's all of the questions we have right now.
Terrific.
And do you mind? I was going to share something about the TLC.
Oh,
for anybody here that
yes.
Pull up the flyer. So for anybody in our audience today that is a current caregiver, I did want to feel free to put any more questions in the chat, but while we're kind of waiting to see if we get any more questions in, I did want to invite everyone to an event that we're having at our office on Friday. So this is our TLC event. We offer TLCs throughout the year. They are an event specifically designed for individuals who are diagnosed with dementia and their caregivers to come and participate in together. It can be kind of hard sometimes to find a dementia-friendly environment that you guys and your family can attend at the same time. So we have another one coming up on Friday, and it is a Wild Wild West themed party. So like I said, it'll be here at our office on North Boulevard from 11 to 1. So we will have a country music player. We'll have some therapy horses here. We'll have barbecue. We'll have games, all kinds of fun stuff. So it is a free event. Anyone who is a current caregiver and their loved one and their family too is more than welcome to join us. So I just wanted to put a little plug out there for that. If anybody's interested, just give me a call at the office today. And the event, like I said, is this Friday from 11 to 1. Okay, thanks, Ann. Let's see, I think we got another question for you, Ann. It is, where should I go to get more information on communication with my loved one? Oh, hold on, Ann, let me turn it on for you. Let me fix that. There you go, you should be good to go to unmute yourself.
So definitely give us a call. We have lots of other information that we can provide you with. I also like to say, if you don't have a copy of the 36-hour day, call us. We will mail it to you for free. There's lots of information in that book alone about good communication, and not just with your loved one, but with family dynamics, and also with doctors and physicians, that whole spectrum. It is a wealth of knowledge, and I encourage any and everyone to read that book, keep it, even if you have to hide it from your loved one, it helps, okay?
Thanks, Ann. And we had a question, what is the office phone number? I went ahead and I put it in the chat, but then I will include it in the follow-up email, but the office phone number is 225-334-7494. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, so give us a call anytime. A couple more questions, Ann.
Wow.
How do you approach your loved one about hallucinations that are scary? When I try to let her know that she is safe, but she thinks I'm lying to her.
Right, she's gonna think you're lying. Acknowledge that this person is over there, but we're gonna call the police and let's go over here, okay? We're gonna go over here because you know, if you're living in an apartment, the neighbor's going to come take care of her, of him, whoever, you know, a lot of like one lady I knew, she believed that there was a little girl in the corner with a knife who was going after her, and she was frightened to death. But telling her there's not a girl and that they're not going to hurt them doesn't acknowledge that the little girl's in the corner. You have to say, I know, but we've called the security guard and they're going to come get them. Let's walk this way. Literally try to help them get out of the room where they're in, okay? Here, take my hand. We're fine. I mean, literally, you know, get between you and her. Illusion could be very helpful. My mom would see bats coming at her and would get underneath the covers and shake and shimmy. And I literally would pick up a broom and sweep at the bats, and she would think I had killed the bats. That's simple. Never hit anybody with a broom, never hit anything with the broom. But she believed I was swatting away the bats. Hope that helps.
Definitely. I think, Ann, thank you so much. One last question says, I have a friend who could benefit from this presentation. Can others view it later? Yes. In the follow-up email that I will send out after the Lunch and Learn this afternoon, there will be a link to the presentation on our YouTube channel. Feel free to copy and paste that link and send that to anybody that you think could benefit from this. And if you guys have any more questions, you can call our office. You can speak to Ann, myself, or any other program staff, or any staff here in our office can help you. So, and I think it is right after is 1:02. I think that is all of the questions, but fantastic presentation today, Ann. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
We hope to see you guys next month for another Lunch and Learn. Thank y'all.